Welcome to the Prairie State Wire podcast. I'm Bryan Hyde, and today I am joined by State Senator Sally Turner. She is the state senator for the 44th Senate District of Illinois. It's wonderful to meet you. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then let's talk a little bit about a particular piece of legislation that you are working on.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. I am going in my fifth year being in the Senate. I'm from the 44th District, which is all or parts of 10 counties that are in central Illinois. I come from Logan County, where I was county clerk and recorder for 6 terms, and loved that job, but it was time to retire and give that to someone else. So I'm also married. My husband is a retired appellate court justice, John Turner, and I have a son and a daughter. And my daughter and son-in-law gave me a grandchild, my very first one and only one. So that's a big deal for me. I drive up and down I-55 whenever I'm able to. They live up in the Burr Ridge area. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm very involved in things that had affected my county in the past. As a county clerk, it's a multifaceted job. You do taxes, recording, vital records, tax extension, bills, and elections. So that's a really well-rounded office to learn a lot of little things about that are going on in that office.
Talk to me about Senate Bill 2706. I know that for some people it's just a number, but there's a reason for this legislation. What is the title of this piece of legislation?
I don't even know if we had a name of it.
Oh,
I don't remember.
In that case, if you were to give it a title, what would you call it?
Renewable energy pay their fair share. I guess.
And let's talk about that, because look, renewable energy is obviously it's something that has great support at the federal level as well as at the state level. Lots of incentives have been offered to wind and solar companies. Right. Let's talk about the downside of that. I think most people would agree, yeah, clean energy is a good thing, but if it's coming on the backs of the taxpayers, tell me why that's not necessarily.
Sure. And you're right. I think most people look for a well-rounded way to supply energy to the people of the state of Illinois. And that's great. We need that. But let's just take, for example, wind. When wind started here and they started assessing wind was in 2007. So they haven't looked at this factor, this base value and the factor since that date. And that's been 18 years ago. So things have changed since then. And also there's a calculation in how they get to this base value. So the base value for wind is $360,000 is their per megawatt capacity. That's what it is now. We understood back when they negotiated that amount of money back in 2007 that was something that they talked to the assessors about, and the assessors should probably have the best idea of what they should assess that at. The assessors were quite a bit higher. The assessors asked for an amount of $588,000 per megawatt. Mm-hmm. So that's a difference. Quite a bit of difference, like $200,000 difference on a base. So looking at that, since it's been back from 2007, that calculation has a lot of things that go into it. And I don't want to get into the weeds with you on the calculation and how it's all done, but there's a formula that's created that's added on top of that base value. And then there's another step that happens with reduction in the CPI and things of that nature. But really what I'm getting at is the base value. So that base value per megawatt needs to be increased. And what that'll do is that will make wind and solar pay more and take up more of the assessed valuation. Now, when they take up more of that assessed value, that will either stop a rate increase for other people's taxes or it'll decrease their rate. It won't go up, it'll go down. So when we're always looking for something that's going to help our taxpayers, this is something that can help our taxpayers. We know that wind and solar already have their their feet well planted in our areas. Just looking around at Logan, I have Logan, DeWitt, Hyatt, McLean. I'm trying to think, and Sangamon. Of those counties that I represent, especially Logan, they're inundated with windmills and solar. So we know it's out there. We know they're doing their thing, but it's time you pay your fair share and help reduce our taxes. That's something that everybody's asking us about all the time. How do we get our property taxes lower? Well, this is one way.
What were the incentives, or what was the thinking behind the incentives in the first place that gave these tax breaks to green energy or renewable energy companies?
Originally?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, I wasn't around when that occurred, but I'm sure it was so that they could get established, their feet on the ground, which, I mean, that makes sense. I understand that. But it's been 18 years since we evaluated wind. And I think it was seven years since we evaluated solar. So we know they're all doing okay. We know they've all gotten, you'd mentioned earlier, some kind of help in some form or manner. And we're still helping them on the state side as well. But it's time we take a hard look at that. And I don't know why we wouldn't want to. I mean, anything that helps our taxpayers in times of need, like we're having right now, I think is the right thing to do.
And Senator Turner, just to make sure I'm tracking correctly too, when we talk about the taxpayers most being affected, we're talking about those who pay property tax. Is that correct?
That is correct. Exactly.
So, let's put this into perspective. How heavy a load do Illinois property tax owners carry? Is Illinois considered, is it a high property tax state compared to, I know some states don't even have property tax, but
we're either number one or number two in property taxes. And we have the most taxing districts of anyone else in the United States. That doesn't mean that everyone's not doing what they need to do. And I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is there's ways to reduce our tax bill. And that's one of the number one things that people ask every year. They get that and say, how on earth can my taxes be this high? What's going on? Well, we need to spread that out. See, the increases that happen, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but with a taxing district, when they submit their levy, they can submit it, if you're in a tax cap county, up to whatever the CPI is, or 5%. Counties that don't have tax caps can make it go up to 5%. But the calculation for the base and wind and solar is different than that. There's a calculation that starts for them for wind, it's back in 2007. And they take that base that was in 2007 and add a CPI and subtract a number. And sometimes what it was back in 2007 will make their taxes lower the next year. So it all needs to be restarted all over again.
And does this require a reevaluation of green energy policy within the state? I'm curious to what extent the green energy or renewable energy industry, what kind of influence does it wield, within the legislature in terms of, I assume it has lobbyists that, are there to help represent its interests.
Oh, and I'm sure there are. I haven't heard from any, which I find quite interesting. But I will say that I think there's interest in energy policy right now because we think we may be seeing that in the upcoming session or maybe in January. But they also have talked about in that energy bill about how they're going to value battery facilities. Mm-hmm. And they don't have that yet. So this would be a perfect time to be able to evaluate all of it. If they're going to do this energy bill.
Let me ask you this, in terms of getting away from fossil fuels, and I know that ultimately that's the goal, right? Zero emissions and, carbon neutral and so forth. But realistically, do the fossil fuels still contribute greatly to, the state's meeting the state's energy needs? I'm curious, how much does wind and solar compare to, the traditional fossil fuel energies?
I believe one is 2%, and that is solar, and wind might be 10%.
Wow.
The rest is fossil fuels and nuclear. Nuclear plays a big part of it.
And for that matter, I guess, could I ask, where does Illinois stand in terms of the ability to generate power through nuclear power?
Sure. Yeah, we just had some good news in Clinton that there's a company that's going to continue to help them keep running over the next 20 years. So that was a plus. But there's still legislation out there. I believe the modular they've lifted the ban on nuclear in this energy bill. That's one plus. Senator Sue Resin has a bill on the modular nuclear facilities. That's something I don't think has happened yet. But I think it's time we take a hard look at that as well. I mean, if it's good, clean energy, and I think it's kind of one of those past things where you think of Homer Simpson and yeah, what it was like there and like how bad it could be. Well, we know things have changed, and the ideas are different, and their facilities are run very well. And if you've ever had the opportunity to take a tour of one, it's really, really interesting. Like I said, we have one in my district.
So, how much autonomy do Illinois lawmakers have to create policy? And I guess in this case, it's probably pretty absolute because it's taxation we're talking about. But I'm curious, is there pressure from above in terms of from the federal government trying to exert its energy designs or its energy goals, and get states to toe the line in terms of, renewable energy?
Sure. I think we saw that reflected in the past administration, very much so. And then in this administration federally, I think there's some headway that they don't want it as much and they want more fossil fuel and more drilling and things of that nature, which I'm sure you know. But in Illinois, they're still pushing toward that date to change fossil fuel and carbon emissions and things of that nature. We need more natural gas. We need more nuclear. And I think if we bring all those things together, then we can have what we need to get by. We can't cut back on things and supplement them with energy sources that aren't going to help us or aren't going to continue to give us the answer to our needs that we have.
By the way, I'm hearkening to an article here from WAND TV talking about Senate Bill 2706, but is it the Clean Grid Alliance is sounding the alarm, saying, "Oh my goodness, this would nearly double property taxes. This would devastate the renewable energy industry." I mean, it sounds like they understand they've had a good deal.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head, and they have had a good go of it. It's time that they take a hard look. Let's take a hard look and see if we can bring those individual taxpayers' bills down. I mean, this is ridiculous. And we've given them all kinds of subsidies all along, and they're still getting subsidies. So, yeah, you're right. And they're, I'm sure, concerned that somebody's taking a look at this.
So where do you go from here? The bill was just filed within the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it go from here?
I need to go visit. Well, first of all, I'll talk more with my caucus, which will be back in tomorrow. But I'll go across the aisle and visit with some of them on the other side and say, this is good legislation. Jump on this with me and, help me promote it so we can get it in committee. And also, we're going to do some outreach to our community. I know in Central Illinois, they have had it with wind and solar. They're just done with it. And I think if we reach out to those individuals, and they'll do a lot of calling to get the bill to go to committee.
And once again, we are visiting with Sally Turner. She is the state senator for the 44th Senate District of Illinois. Thank you so much for visiting with us today on the Prairie State Wire podcast. Is there a website where you would direct people to either get more information or to get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, they can go to my website, the state website. It's just Sally Turner, 44th District, Sally Turner State Senator, 44th District. But they're welcome to call my office anytime. I'm happy to visit with anyone and email my office as well. They can do that under the Turner email, which is a link on my website. And also they can follow me on Facebook.
Hey, once again, State Senator Sally Turner, thank you for joining us on the Prairie State Wire podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.